All right, so welcome to our intermediate class. And our theme today is around the breath, and we're going to work on three really specific techniques of working with the breath, really simple techniques actually, that you can do absolutely anywhere. And the idea is that they sort of release tension in the body, bring us back to our center, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, and help us to sort of stay in that more grounded, centered place. There's lots of as many different breath techniques, I imagine, as you could think up, because there's so many variations in how you use each one. But today we're really just looking at these three very, very simple techniques. So the first one we're going to look at today is yawning. And actually, before I say that, I want to say one more thing before we get going with the class, that if you're joining in on the recording, you may want to have a belt, some kind of belt with you, this is just a standard yoga strap, but you could use any kind of belt that you have that's a few feet long at least. So it can go around your foot and back to your hands when you're lying down. All right, that said, so the first breath technique, it's not really a breath technique per se, because we do it all the time, and that's yawning. So when we yawn, we stretch the jaw. When we release the jaw, we actually release the diaphragm, we release the pelvic floor. We usually stretch when we yawn, so we get this nice stretch. And we also, yeah, see Bonnie, I can see her in the little screen here. You're not seeing it if you're on the replay, but I can see students yawning, just the suggestion of yawning, right? So when someone yawns around you, so it's not just beneficial for us to yawn, it actually creates a feeling of community and connection with each other. And you've probably seen or had the experience that when you yawn, it's often contagious, or someone else yawns. Even talking about yawning, even fake yawning can get someone else going, and actually fake yawning can trigger a real yawn. So what I want to say about yawning is that there's this kind of um, not great feeling about yawning, right? Like if you're talking away to someone and they go, ah, you're not actually going to think they're paying attention to you. But yawning has nothing to do with being bored. It doesn't even have anything really to do with being tired. We can yawn anytime. And it's not a sign of disrespect or any of that. It's just a sign that our body wants to stretch and move and get more oxygen. And you've probably felt at the end of a yawn that just like, satisfying feeling of yawning, or if someone interrupts your yawn, that frustrated feeling of not getting to complete the yawn. So we're going to work with that today, and we're going to kind of use it as a transition piece. So we'll take a big yawn and a stretch in between different things that we do. And then the other two techniques that we'll look at, one is conscious breathing and one is measured breathing. So we're counting a little bit with the breath. So I'll introduce those to you a little bit after, but we're going to come to, let's come to lie down to begin with today. So you can come onto your mat, lying down, get comfortable, and I'll see you there. You just go ahead and lie down. I'm just going to check the settings on the camera. Make sure we're all good here. All right. So lying down, I invite you to simply come into your breath as it is. So your hands can rest on your body if that's comfortable. I often like to have one hand sort of more in the rib cage area, one hand more in the belly area. But whatever's comfortable for you, and your legs can be bent or straight, whatever works for you. And before we get really going with the breath work today, let's just take a nice big yawn and a stretch. So we're going to start by fake yawning. See if it turns into a real yawn. Stretch your arms if you like, and also stretch your legs. Yawn 2-3 times if you can. Fake it if you can't. And then you can bring yourself back to where you were and just getting comfortable again. So take a moment to simply get comfortable, adjust as you need to, make whatever little adjustments your body needs. And so the second breath technique or breath practice that we'll work with today is simply noticing your breath. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just taking note of your breath as it is. So notice the quality and the texture of your breath. Notice the rhythm of your breath. Maybe notice where you feel the breath. Temperature. And then perhaps follow the breath from where it enters your nostrils. And I should mention that nose breathing is preferred for all breathing, except for some certain breath techniques that use the mouth. But the nose is designed for the breath. The sinuses warm and filter the air. You might feel the breath moving through your throat, down into your chest, and you might feel some movement in your belly as well. So we're not trying to change anything. Just tuning in and noticing. Be curious about your breath. If your mind wanders, which is likely, invite it back to the breath and just notice. One more minute. Great. And then to signify that we're switching gears here, let's take another yawn and a stretch so you can start to trigger that yawn. Stretching your arms if you like. You can also stretch out your legs. Any number of yawns. If 3 or 4 want to come out, let them come. And the wisdom is that you could yawn enough to make your eyes water, and then you know you're really getting deep into the yawn. And then eventually come back. We'll bring the knees in towards the body. And a little warm up for the spine and the hips. So simply moving the knees away and towards you. If you want to coordinate your breathing, inhale as the knees move away. And exhale as the knees move in. Use either the breath as a way of keeping you focused in the moment, or you could go back to one of the other tools that we've been working with, which is awareness of sensation. So you could tune into what you feel in your body as you do this, or you could tune into the rhythm of your breath. Right. Next time your knees come in toward your body, you can give them a hug, maybe clasping your hands over your shins, perhaps rocking a little side to side. And then bringing the hands back onto the knees. And we'll draw the knees in toward the body and then separate the knees to the sides, towards the sides of your rib cage. And then straighten your arms to move your knees away. And then let them come towards each other and back in toward your chest. So each leg is doing a separate circle away from each other and back in towards each other. So try that a few times. Move slowly. Don't worry about how you're breathing as long as you're breathing. Tuning into how your hips feel. It's a nice little rotation to do with the hips lying down because there's no weight on the hip joints as there is when we're standing. So, and you can go the other way. So you can send the knees away down the center, separate the knees, draw them up toward the armpits and back in together. So now the legs are still circling, but the direction of each circle has changed. Beautiful. Come back to the center, give a little squeeze. And then with your knees staying into your chest, let your elbows come to the ground, let your hands come to rest on the sides of your thighs. And as you take your knees apart now, the hands can slide toward the knees. And you can support your knees with your hands and finding that place where it feels like a nice, supported, full, good stretch without being too much. So you're not creating tension anywhere in your body, except the little bit of tension you need in your arms to hold your legs in this position. Right, you can keep your hands on your thighs and try moving your legs straighter. They don't have to be straight. And then allowing your hands to hold the legs here, supporting the legs in a position that feels good, but not too much. And then you can, if it feels okay for you, you can release your hands. If not, keep your hands there as we very, very, very slowly bring the legs back towards each other over your hips. Really slowly. You might feel a little shaking, that's okay. Move slowly, slowly, slowly until the legs are side by side, about hip distance apart, straight up in the air over your hips. You can, if it's comfortable for you, extend your arms either overhead or out to the sides, bending your elbows if you like, and then reach out with your arms, reach out with your feet. Big breath in. And then as you exhale, relax your feet, relax your knees, let them come in toward your chest. Give yourself a nice squeeze here, rock a little side to side, releasing those big muscles that support your spine. Okay, and then let's release the feet to the floor. And we'll keep working with the inner thighs a little bit today. It's going to be a bit of a theme for us today, so pace yourself as you need to. So starting with the knees together and ankles together, you can again place your hands somewhere on your body where it feels comfortable, and you might be able to feel some movement of your breath and perhaps the spine moving here. So we're going to take the feet, soles together, knees apart. You can take a big breath in as you do. And then as you exhale, pressing your knees back together, feet pressing into the ground, squeezing the breath out. So you're inhaling, opening the knees, letting the belly expand, the back will naturally arch. Feel the breath coming to fill that space, and then exhale, knees together, press into the ground, squeeze the knees together, and squeeze gently the breath out. Continue like that at your own pace a few more times. for the next thing that we'll do, the same thing actually, but instead of moving dynamically, you have the option now to stay. And when I say option, I mean you can keep moving dynamically if you want, or you can be, take a rest and be done with this pose for now. But if it feels right for you, you can take the knees apart, bring the soles of the feet together, and let the legs relax to either side. Now, for some people, this will be totally comfortable and fine. You could rest here, no problem. You might even bring your hands to your inner thighs to encourage a little more stretch. And then for others, the opposite will be true. It'll feel like a lot of stretch, and it might feel like it's too much and that you have to tense up to resist that stretch. And you can do a couple of things here. If your arms are long enough, you can make fists and try just placing your fists under your upper thighs, and that might help a little bit. And alternatively, if you have blocks or blankets or cushions available to you, you might use them to support under your thighs somehow, wherever it's comfortable. So again, if you want to keep moving dynamically, knees together and apart, that's fine. If you can find a way to stay that's comfortable and allows you to relax and breathe, you can stay there. So if you're staying, hands back on the body, tuning into the breath and coming back into that breath awareness, simply observing the breath without trying to change it at all. Over time, we'll spend about another minute here. If you feel like you need to come out of the pose, absolutely do. If things start to release in your inner thighs and you feel like you could move the legs down a little bit, you might move your blocks out towards your knees or lower them down so you get a bit more stretch. So listen to your body, adjust as you need to. Maybe another few breaths here now. Great, and then again, when you're ready, we're going to release. Slowly bring the knees back in together, and then knees into the chest, and you can hug your knees and rock or circle, whatever would feel good right now. Okay, and then coming back to center, you can release your feet to the floor. Here, if you have a belt, so this is where the belt might come in handy. And you may also, if you have blocks, you might want to keep them handy, or a thick cushion. And that's going to help when we start to bring the legs down to one side or the other, that you might use that prop to help limit the amount of movement there is. So coming back down, you can bend both of your knees to begin with. And we'll work with one leg at a time. So you can bring the belt around the ball of one of your feet. And note that if your calves or your hamstrings are really tight, having the belt around the ball of your foot is going to give you sort of the maximum amount of stretch here. So if you try that and it feels like a lot of stretch, try moving the belt down towards your heel. So that's going to put your foot in a more pointed position as opposed to a more flexed position. And in that position, there's less stretch on the back of the legs. So you can then decide what works best for you. And let's start by, if you've got a long belt like I have and you are able to, you can bring your elbows to the ground. If not, just hold as low down as you can so that you can really relax your shoulders. If you prefer to have straight arms and reach up, and you can do that with relaxed shoulders, that's fine too. So here we're going to do some little circles with that leg that's in the air. Now, if straight leg isn't a comfortable position for you, or if your leg needs to be further away, absolutely. And we're making circles, like you're taking your heel and drawing a circle on the ceiling with your heel. Okay. And then I invite you to find a position where you feel a just right amount of stretch. So last week we were looking at the splits and really taking things step by step by step. And here, finding that first edge of stretch where it feels like a good stretch, not too much, not too little. You can relax, you can be with the stretch, you can enjoy the stretch, it doesn't create tension. And pause here for a few breaths. Imagine your hip, the hip of the leg that's raised, sinking down into the earth. And for those of you who want more stretch here and it would feel good to you, you can slowly extend the other leg on the ground, pointing your toes toward the ceiling. And then as much as possible, imagine your hips becoming a little more square. So there's a tendency for the hip of the leg that's on the ground to kind of be lower down towards that foot. The other hip tends to kind of pull up towards the shoulder on that side. So I invite you to gently pull back on the leg that's on the ground. So you're pulling the leg in towards the hip up towards the waist. And on the other side, you're pressing your sit bone down towards the opposite foot. So nice alignment through the hips. Beautiful. Relax, a few more breaths. If the stretch has released a little bit and it feels easy or there's not much sensation, you might want to gently encourage the leg a little closer to you. If you go there and you think, oh, that's too much, then you just back off or slightly bend the knee. So we're finding that sweet spot, holding for a few more breaths. And then you can bring that foot down, release the belt. Stretch that leg out so both legs are straight on the ground. Relax both feet and notice, how does one leg feel? How does the other leg feel? And if this visualization makes sense to you, you might imagine that leg you've stretched now, that you're breathing in and you're sending your breath down through your body, down through that one leg, all the way to your foot. Back out from your foot, up through the body, out through the nose. And of course, if that visualization doesn't make sense or doesn't work for you, you're just going to breathe normally. Let's bend both knees again. If it feels like your hips are a little off to one side or out of kilter, you can pick them up, bring them back down again, feel even in the hips. And then we'll take the belt around the bottom of the other foot. And again, wherever it's comfortable and possible for you to hold on. My preference is elbows on the ground, and that way I can just really relax my shoulders and not worry about bringing tension in there. So again, we'll start with some little circles. As you circle, notice how that stretch feeling changes, where it turns on, where it turns off a little more, if that's true for you. But it might be that it doesn't turn on and off, it just becomes more intense and less intense. So you're just noticing. All right, and then honing in on that sweet spot of first kind of feeling of gentle stretch, wherever that is on this side. And when you find that first intensity, pausing here, let your hip sink down, back of the hip dropping into the earth. And again, if it feels right for you, and only if it feels right, you can slowly start to straighten the leg that's on the floor, pressing the heel down, toes up, and then we're going to check in with the hips. So if your leg in the air felt more intensely stretched when you straighten the other leg, that's normal, that's good. You may need to back off a little bit or bend the knee to accommodate that, or you might want to bend the other leg again. And then from here, think about the long leg on the ground. You're trying to think of pulling that hip up, or that leg up toward the hip, at the same time pressing the other hip down towards the opposite foot. So there's this feeling of kind of adjusting the hips slightly back to square. And then relax your shoulders, your face, your jaw. Seek out just the right level of stretch for you. So if that means inviting the leg closer or moving the leg further away to get that aha, that's just right feeling, the Goldilocks stretch. Stay there for a few breaths. See if you can come back to conscious breathing, feeling your breath as it comes in and goes out. Maybe notice how the sensations of the stretch change a little bit from when you're inhaling to exhaling, if that's true for you. As you're ready, we're going to slowly release. Stretch that leg out to meet the other leg. Let both legs relax. And let the hands rest wherever they're comfortable. And again, the invitation here is, if it feels right for you and if this visualization makes sense, you're going to breathe in and imagine the breath filling your body and going down that leg to that foot that we've just been working with. And then as you exhale, the breath comes up from your foot and back out through your nose. And again, if that visualization doesn't work for you, just breathe normally. Feel the breath where you feel it in your body. Great, and now let's come back to the center. And we'll bend both knees again. We'll bring both knees up into the chest. And any movement, so it could be forward and back with your knees, side to side rocking, circling. Really looking to bring the hips and the legs a little bit back to a feeling of balance or alignment. Stretch both legs to the ceiling, arms to the sides or overhead, breathing in. And exhale, squeeze into a small little ball. And one more time, stretching out. Breathing right to your fingers and toes, and then squeezing the breath out from the center as you bring the knees in. Right, bringing your feet to the floor and triggering a nice big yawn. Stretching out and bringing the arms back down to your sides, or actually back to your belt. So we're going to, again, take the belt, take the bottom of the belt now, bring it around the ball or, again, the heel or arch of your foot, wherever it's comfortable for you. And this time we're going to take both sides of the belt into the hand that corresponds to the same leg. So if it's your right leg, it's going to be your right arm. And you want to reach up and hold close to your foot. And then you could just hold on to the end of your belt or move it out of the way if you've got a long enough belt. So again, here, feeling the sense of dropping down through your hips, finding that nice stretch in the back of the leg. Not too much here, so don't go to your maximum stretch. Just find, neutral or very, very slight stretch here. So it could even be a little further away from your body. Option to keep this knee bent, which maybe you may find a little bit less intense, or again, straighten that leg, keep it active as you go through this next movement. So here, you can take your free hand, bring it onto your hip, and that's a reminder to keep that hip anchored. And we're going to slowly move this leg out to the side and back to center. So you can start with little movements, just a few inches over and back. Right? As you're going, you might find that you can go a little further. As you go further, the leg has a more weight to it, right, that you have to resist as you go to the side. So you're really anchoring that straight leg, or it could be bent, reaching to the side. Keep this hip anchored down and back to the center. Now, at some point, if it feels right for you, you can go ahead and find that comfortable position again to stay, right? So it could be elbow on the ground. And here's where I mentioned that you might find you have a block handy, placing it under your thigh somewhere might help to just relieve the amount of effort to hold that leg there, right? Because it can be a little bit of effort. And if you want that effort, you can certainly move the block and use the muscles of your inner thigh to hold that leg. Keep anchoring down on the other side. Know that you can come out of this stretch at any time. It can be quite intense, so if it's too much for you, just come out at any time. If you want a little more stretch, you can start to lift the leg toward your head by gently drawing on the belt. Again, you want to keep both hips anchored. Really stop and check in. Is this still okay? Does this stretch feel good? I'm using my other hand just to kind of help because it's a lot of holding here at the belt. You can do that or hold your leg with your hand or again with the block. So now bringing the leg back up, it can be a little bit of strain if you don't have the sort of core and leg strength to do this. So if you're at all concerned, bend your knee and then come back to center. If you're feeling strong and really you've got a good core strength, good inner thigh strength, then you can take the leg from the side and very slowly, and you might again start to shake. You don't have to use the belt here. You can use the muscles of your leg to slowly lift back to center. And then releasing the belt. And bring that foot down. Maybe stretch the leg out again for a moment. And let go of the effort of that side. Notice the sensations. Be with what you're experiencing in this moment. Right, and then, of course, we'll do the other side. And as always, we tend to do the easier side first out of a sort of instinct. So if you're now coming into the more challenging side, as I am, then you're going to bring even more awareness, make it even slower as you come into this side stretch, opening your thigh. So again, if you have a block or a cushion or a blanket that you think might be helpful, you can bring it to the other side. You're gonna reach up toward the foot so the arm is straight, shoulders relaxed. The other leg can stay bent or extend out on the ground. Again, that's gonna maybe invite you to release on the belt a little bit. Place your hand on the opposite hip so that as you take the leg to the side, you're reminded to keep anchored through that hip. And then again, we're gonna go a little bit and then back to center. Okay. You wanna always have control of your legs. So if you get partway to the side and your leg starts to fall and you start to roll over, we'll certainly roll with it so that you don't overstretch. But ideally you wanna avoid letting your leg decide where you're going and really have control, lifting and lowering. And then eventually, as we did on the other side, you can take it to wherever it's gonna feel good for you. Now that might be a little bit to the side. It might be, for some of you, maybe all the way down to the floor. Well, that's a pretty intense stretch. And then again, if you have a block or a cushion, I find the block, it's a little tricky. I like to put it on an angle, but you want to really make sure that it's steady, that it's not going to fall out from under you. Right? And then holding that leg, breathing, know that you can come out of this pose anytime that it doesn't feel good for you anymore. Press out through your heel. Breathe. See if you can be conscious of your breath as you hold this pose. Feel the effort, but let your attention be with your breath. So again, you can make the stretch a little deeper if you want by dropping the leg a little further to the floor or lifting the leg up toward your head. Really honor what your body messages are. And again, the easiest way to come out of this is to bend the knee in and then bring it back. Right? If you feel you have the strength and it wouldn't be a strain for you, You can use the belt to help you, or you can let go altogether and slowly raise that leg up, using your core and leg strength. Great. When the belt and the leg come up, you can release the belt, release your foot, stretch both legs out for a moment, and relax. You can give a little shake if you like. And pause here for a couple of breaths. Okay, and then we'll bend both knees. Knees coming in toward the chest. And here we're going to stretch the arms overhead, stretch the legs toward the ceiling. You can breathe in as you do that. Exhale as you bring the knees back to the chest and squeeze in. And then as we do this movement, you have the option, if you like, to each time you raise the legs, take them apart a little wider. So make it a very narrow V to begin with, and then back to the chest. And then a little wider V, and back in. Maybe a little wider, and back in. All right, and keep moving the legs, maybe a little wider as they allow and feel good with. And you may find that you come to a place eventually where you've gone as far as you can, but you're comfortable to stay for a few breaths. So use your core, engage your core, firm up through your legs, press out through your feet, feel your thighs working. If you need to, you can hold your thighs with your hands to support them. If your legs start shaking, that's really normal. If it's uncomfortable, by all means, come out of the pose. If you're still here and you want to stay a little longer, breathe. Become conscious of your breath. Feel the effort, but let go of any story you might have about it. Just breathe. Slowly, slowly, slowly bring your legs together if they're still apart. And as your legs come side by side now, release into your chest. You can bring your hands to your thighs or to your shins, or knees, and any movement that would feel good here. All right, and then just taking one hand to each knee. So earlier in the class, we did nice circles with the legs, both directions. And now I invite you to just move your legs any which way. You can rock over to your side. You can straighten. Hands can be on the knees or not. So you're just moving your legs around any way that feels good. After all the rigidity of stretching, and then eventually bring them back to the center and give them a good shake. Right, and then bringing your legs down to the ground. And once more, stretch your legs out. Let them relax. Come back to your breath. Notice that you're breathing. And bring your hands to where you feel the breath and tune into that movement. And then we're going to switch positions. So when you're ready, you could yawn and stretch. In any way that would feel good to you. Right, and then we'll bend the knees, roll to one side, and come upright. So as you come upright, I'm going to invite you to sit for just a couple of minutes to look at the third breath technique that we're going to explore today. So if you have a cushion or you want to sit on a chair or blanket or block, go for it. Like I said, it'll just be a few minutes seated, so hopefully you'll be comfortable. So however you like to sit is fine, as long as your sit bones are Anchored so you feel both sit bones, right? So you're not over to one side or the other, and that your spine is in a neutral, relaxed position and you're upright. So take a moment to feel your sit bones, feel your legs. We just did a whole lot of leg stretching. So see if you can feel a sense of grounding through your lower body now after all of that stretching for your legs. Allow your spine to lengthen and grow up from that grounded place. And so the next breath technique, it's quite simple. And we're trying to, in this one, create an equal inhale and an equal exhale. So you can count, or you can say a phrase if you like. So something that helps you to regulate the inhale and the exhale to be the same duration. Right, so I might go inhale, 1, 2, 3, exhale, 1, 2, 3. So anywhere 2, 3, 4 seconds is great. It could be as many as 6 seconds. Beyond that, a little bit more advanced, but the main thing is that you're not straining with your breaths. As long as it's comfortable, it's fine. So take a moment to establish what feels like a comfortable rhythm for you. So it could be 2, 3, 4 seconds, or maybe you want to say your name as you inhale and say it again as you exhale, or you could say Happy May 2-4 as you inhale, or Merry Christmas as you exhale, whatever. So taking a moment to determine what feels natural and right for you, and then starting to find that rhythm. And as you find that rhythm, you can count or use your phrase, and we'll do several breaths here. Equal length of inhale, equal exhale. And then let that go. Come back to conscious breathing. So you're breathing without counting, but noticing the breath. And then we'll take that yawn. You can stretch your arms up. Oh, anyway, it feels good to you. And release. Right. So we'll do one more movement here, seated, actually 2 more. And then we'll come to stand. So we're going to take one hand onto the ground beside you. If you happen to be on a chair, you can just place your hand on the chair. It'll work exactly the same. Taking one arm up. We're going to breathe in, and we're going to reach up and a little bit over. So you don't want to feel your sit bone lift. You're just finding a little stretch in the side of your body and then coming back. We'll go to the other side. So lift up, reach a little over. You can bend your elbow or move the arm further to the side to support you. Coming up. And let's lift. Breathing in, exhale to the side. Inhale to the center. Exhale down. Go at your own pace if my pace isn't right for you. Inhale up. Exhale, lengthen up and over. Inhale up. Exhale, release. We're going to stay this time. Inhale up. Exhale to the side. You can walk the hand away. Bring the elbow down. Make sure you're not locking your arm and crunching up your shoulder. And find a nice easy stretch and breathe into the length of your torso from your armpit all the way down into your hip on that lengthened side. Breathing, expanding the front, the side, the back of your body, all on that lengthened side. And then reaching up and release. Coming up with the other arm, breathing in, reach to the side. Again, walk the hand away, bend the elbow as you need to really keep that shoulder nice and released. Check that both sit bones are anchored. And then breathing into that long side that you've created from the armpit down into the hip. Imagine you're breathing sort of all around the front, side, and back of that side of your body. Breathing in and out through your nose if possible. Right, and then coming back up and releasing. And let's come to all fours to do the cat-cow to release the spine back to a nice neutral position. You can do this seated if you like, but I find kneeling gets a little more movement into the spine. So as you like. Inhaling, soft elbows, soft shoulders, chest forward. Exhaling, rounding. Maybe coming to child's pose if that feels good. Back to all fours as you breathe in. Exhale, rounding. Go at your own pace, a few more. If child's pose is comfortable, go ahead and stay. You can bring your elbows under you to support you, or your hands if you need them, or resting your head on the ground. The arms can be forward or back by your legs. Take a few breaths wherever is comfortable for you. Come back to conscious breathing. See if you can just notice the movement of the breath. No counting, no specific need to do anything in a specific way. Just noticing, where do I feel the breath now? When you're ready, you can roll up to your knees, coming onto your knees, maybe come onto your toes, so tucking your toes under, and then lifting up your knees from there. From your squat, letting the head release down as you lift your sit bones, allow your head to release. Take a couple of breaths here. And then from there, arms to the sides, lift your chest first, come halfway up. And take a breath here, exhale completely, and then come all the way up, reaching up overhead with the breath in. And then exhaling to release. And we're upright. So coming to mountain pose. Feel your feet under you, especially your heels. Feel your legs. We just worked a lot with the legs, and we're going to do a little more work with the legs today before we finish. So be aware of your legs. Be aware of the energy, the stretch, and the strengthening that we've been working with already. As your hips to heels drop down, feel from your hips to the crown, lift, your shoulders drop down. Right, so we're going to move into a pose called Goddess Pose, taking the feet quite wide, a little wider than your shoulders, at least. They can be wider, so the wider they are, as usual, the more challenging the pose becomes. So we're going to take the feet and turn them out to about 45 degrees. And then you want to think about externally rotating the thighs a little bit here. So it's sort of gathering out and back. So the kneecaps start to come in line with your feet, right? So you want to watch your balance here. Kneecaps are in line with your feet so that when we bend the knees are going out over the legs instead of in towards each other. And it helps if you think about a little weight on the outer edges of your feet, as opposed to when you come to the inner edges of your feet, your knees tend to fall in. So if you like, you can even bring your hands to begin with to your inner thighs. So starting with straight legs, inner thighs. As you go down, you're not pushing the legs out, you're just keeping some awareness of this action of moving back, knees moving back. And come on up. So just check in, see how that feels. Good. Now, if your legs are a little closer together and you bend down and your knees are going way out over your ankles, you might find it's a little straining for your knees. So you may want to adjust your stance or maybe don't go down quite so far. So coming back to our original stance, feet apart, slightly turned out, about 45 degrees. And now as you go down, we're going to lift the arms. So squatting down, lifting up, and then lifting up as the arms come down. If you want to coordinate breathing, inhale as you lift the arms and drop the knees. Exhale as you come back to your starting position. Keep the knees moving back. Inner thighs wide. Great, we're going to stay this time. So as you come down, good. And then we're going to take the arms, bring them down to the sides, and turn the palms in. Good, knees going back, elbows going back, chest lifting. Feel the strength. Good, lifting up. And release. You can walk your feet in. Give your legs a little shake. Good, and pause for a moment in mountain pose. Exhale down into your heels. And then we're going to take the feet wide again and come back into our goddess pose. So toes turned out. Same thing, we'll move dynamically to begin with. So knees are going back as we drop down and reach the arms up. And then exhale, standing up, lowering the arms. Good. And this time again, we're going to stay. Great, so now as we're staying, we're going to add a little movement. So inhale and lengthen up. And then exhale, reach your hand to one thigh and reach over to that side. Inhale, come up. Exhale, other side. Continue. Good. This time stay. Come back up and stay. Back to center. Sink down and lift. Release your arms and bring your feet back in. Give them a shake and shake it all out. Beautiful. So we're going to do a little bit of a moving sequence now from Goddess Pose. So we'll just move together and hopefully you can follow along. So again, feet wide. Toes turned out. Let's just take a moment, come back to the breath. So your breath may have gotten a little bit quicker with that effort. Come back to your breath. Good. Let's take a yawn. Good. Great, and ready? So we'll bend the knees, lift the arms, breathing in, stay here. Good. And then you're going to take one leg, straighten it, shift the weight to the other side. You turn that foot. So now as you bring your arms to the sides and you can turn the other foot, coming into warrior two. From warrior two, we're going to lift the back heel, swing the back arm over, bring the hands either to your front knee or down to the ground, and move your front leg a little straighter as you reach the back heel toward the ground. From here, bending the front knee, and you might need to step your back foot a little further back or wiggle it back to bring the knee down in lunge. You can either stay here in lunge or lift the arms up. And release. Lifting the back leg, moving the front knee straighter, head toward your knee. Bend the knee, take your back foot, turn it out to the side, lifting up to warrior one, and turning back to warrior two. Right, from warrior two, straighten the front leg. Feet come around. We can turn the feet out again for goddess. Drop down. Great, and coming up, arms to the sides. We're going to bend into the opposite knee now and shift that back foot. So we're turning the angle, and you're going to take your front foot and turn it straight ahead now for warrior two. Hope you're still with me. We're going to lift the back heel, swing the arm over, bring the hands down to, it could be the knee, blocks, or the ground. Move your front leg a little straighter, press your back heel toward the ground, pause here. I'm going to bend the front knee. You can wiggle your back foot back a little bit or step it back. Lower the knee down, and option to lift up in lunge. Coming back, hands down. Lifting the back knee, moving the front leg a little straighter. And then you'll take your back foot, turn it to the side so your whole foot can be anchored, bending the front knee as you lift into warrior one. And then we're going to shift back to warrior two. You might need to adjust your feet a little bit. Good. Straighten the leg. Turn your feet parallel. Lift the arms up. Exhale, forward bend. Releasing down toward the ground. Let's repeat that. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, forward. Inhale. And exhale. If you like, you can stay this time. Maybe you want your elbows on your thighs or your hands on your thighs rather than letting your body dangle. You could hold your arms or just let them hang. Conscious breathing. Feel your breath. And as you're ready, reaching up, lifting, and releasing. Again, stepping your feet together. You can give them a little shake if you like. Shake the whole body if that feels good. And then back to Tadasana, back to your mountain pose. Exhale, drop into your heels. Feel your thighs pull up. Feel your spine lengthen, your shoulders drop, crown lift. And we'll pause here for maybe a minute or so. And I invite you, if it felt right for you earlier, if you want to come back to that measured breathing. So you're inhaling for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds, exhaling for the same amount of time. So see what that feels like standing. Right, and then let that go for now. Let your body soften, maybe wiggle a little, stretch, move your shoulders, your hips, just get some movement in your body. Doesn't really matter exactly what, let it flow. Good. Great, so we're gonna make our way back down to sit for a moment. So again, if you wanna sit on a chair or blanket, cushion, block, whatever is handy and comfortable for you. Beautiful. So as you come to that comfortable seated position, just taking a moment to feel your body, feel the roots of your sit bones making contact with whatever you're sitting on. Feel the length of your spine. Maybe notice how your legs feel again now after lots of stretching and strengthening today. Feel that base of support that your legs provide. Let them relax as much as possible now. And then we'll spend another just couple of minutes consciously breathing. If you prefer to do the measured breath, counting inhale and exhale, that's fine. Really just being aware that we're breathing, not necessarily controlling the breath. Really feeling its movement, its flow. And you can stay a little longer with this if you like. In fact, you can stay as long as you like. You can stay through the entirety of Shavasana if you prefer to stay seated. If you're feeling really aligned and comfy here and you want to stay, great. And at some point over the next minute or two, I invite you to transition to lying down if that's where you would choose to be for your Shavasana. So we'll move right into Shavasana now. Seated meditation if you prefer, or getting really comfortable lying down if that is what feels best for you today. And I invite you, whether you stay seated or you start to transition to lying down, see if you can do whatever you're doing with consciousness of your breath, awareness of when the breath comes and goes. Simply noticing your breathing. And if you've changed positions and you're comfortable, let your body settle. Settling into this new position. Feeling the ground beneath you. Whether you're sitting or lying down, feeling yourself melt a little bit into the earth. Feel that you could soften and relax and really land here. Really land in this moment. Let your shoulders and arms release, your neck, throat, face, head. Soften and let your chest, all the ribs and the muscles that support your ribs, soften and release. Feel around your waist and lower back, that middle section of your torso. And see if by bringing your awareness here, you can bring any more ease and softness. Maybe you're able to feel the gentle expansion and contraction of your breath in this area of your body. Softening, softening, softening all around the waist and lower back, and then down into the pelvis, lower abdomen, pelvic floor softening. Feel the weight of your pelvis on the ground. Surrender into that support. Softening your thighs. We did a lot of work with the thighs today. Softening and releasing inner, outer thighs, front and back of your thighs. Let your knees also release. Calves, shins, ankles, toes, feet, all the way through your body. And then if, and only if this image feels right for you, you might imagine as you're breathing that the breath enters and fills your entire body. And as you exhale, the breath deflates you, softens you, sinks you down as you breathe out from your entire body. Breathing into your fingers and toes, the crown of your head. Filling all the space inside with breath and then letting that breath go as you exhale. And as you continue to breathe, either simply noticing the breath or breathing into your whole body if that feels right for you, I'll share a chant with you. It's very short. Repeat a few times and I'll translate it later. This is about the breath and the effect of the breath when we diligently practice. Tataha kshiyate prakashavaranam. Tataha kshiyate prakashavaranam. Tataha kshiyate prakashavaranam. Tataha kshiyate prakashavaranam. If you've lost the awareness and the thread of your breath, bring your attention back there now. And if you're ready to move into the rest of your day, you might deepen your breath a little bit. So when we take a deeper breath, as long as we're not straining, it tends to be a little more energizing, stretching the muscles around your rib cage and starting to move and stretch, maybe yawning as you do that. So take your time. And if you're ready to come back upright, you can go ahead and roll onto your side when you're ready. Come back to sit in your own time. And as you make your way back to sitting, you can bring your hands one over the other, over the area of your heart and lungs, which is the upper chest area. So the chant that I shared with you earlier is from the book of the Yoga Sutras. And the meaning is that when you practice breath techniques, breath practices, pranayama is the Sanskrit name. When you do those practices regularly with diligence, the effect is that we see more clearly and our own inner light shines more clearly. So the translation is something like, the effects of pranayama is to clear sort of open the curtains that hide the light in our heart. And the light in our heart can shine out to others, but it can also shine out to bring more clarity to our lives, to the situations, if we have decisions to make or problems to solve. Breath work, even just doing a little bit of breath work for 5 minutes before kind of coming into those sorts of issues can really help to bring clarity. But it's over time with a regular daily practice, even a few minutes a day, that we really, really see those results kind of the most. So hands over the heart. So you might imagine that light in your own heart. Maybe it's a little dim today, maybe it's really bright, maybe you have no idea what I'm talking about. So just imagine any feeling of lightness or light in as opposed to dark, or light as opposed to heavy. And if that doesn't come to you today, that's okay. Be with the breath. And if you feel moved as you take a breath in, feeling the expansion on the heart, and then opening the curtains of your heart to let your light shine. And then you can bring your hands back, palm to palm, in front of your heart. Take a moment to be grateful for whatever it is that you're grateful for today. So state it in your mind, I'm grateful for whatever it is. And then as you go into your day, carry this gratitude with you. Practice the breath techniques. They're simple. Yawn. Notice that you're breathing. And then the most complicated one is to breathe equal inhale and exhale. So anywhere, anytime, you can do these techniques and see what the effect is, how your body responds, how your mind and mood respond. Namaste.